French no luxury.
Discover the all-new 252 DS Automobiles range at Hugo Luna Motors.
Experience pure driving pleasure with DS Automobiles, the French luxury car company.
DS's premium range stands out through its charismatic style, interior refinement, sophisticated technology, and first-class comfort. Book your test drive today and discover the magic of DS Automobiles at hugolunamotors.ie.
Good evening and welcome to Encore, your weekly arts and entertainment show on Midlands 103, bringing you the best in what's happening artistically across the Midlands each week. Tonight we have a bit of a random mix, from painting orbs to doll making to exploring the attachment we have with objects and festival appropriate tunes. Artist Emma Barone brings us on a journey through her latest collection. The Dollmaker of Ireland's hidden heartlands, Teresa Doyle, tells us how she fell into the craft, and Naomi Draper on bringing seemingly insignificant items together to form an evocative work of art. And if we have time, we might fit in a song from an artist performing at the highly anticipated Festival of the Year, taking place in County Laois this weekend. But first, earlier this week, I made my way over to Birr Theatre and Art Centre, which is a fabulous space, by the way, run by the most lovely people, to check out Tullamore-born but Birr-based artist Emma Barone's Orb exhibition, which I have been dying to see ever since she teased the collection on her social medias earlier this summer. She started off the guided tour by reading me a piece she had written for its grand opening.
These paintings are holding us in this room, in this moment. They ask us to stay present, to find a brief moment of clarity in a world that feels chaotic. Each artwork is an invitation to pause, to breathe, to find a still point. My hope is that as you move through the exhibition, that you'll feel that connection, that sense of being held, and maybe, just maybe, discover your own moment of clarity.
So Emma, would you like to talk me through the exhibition space of the pieces that feature in it?
So we have, as you come in the door, we have from number 1 to 9, these are called monotypes or monoprints. And these are kind of an entity on their own. It's a little collection of framed monotypes. They're created using a gel plate. So I made most of these pieces when I was at the Tyrone Guthrie Centre last summer. And kind of that's where the idea of the orb came from.
You've said before that looking back through your art over the years, this orb seemed to keep reappearing, but kind of unconsciously to yourself. You've never focused on it before.
That's right, Zoe. When I was looking back for ideas of a solo exhibition, or I was kind of thinking I'll have a look at some previous work that I've maybe made over the last 20 years. And I did notice that there was a common thread running throughout some of those paintings, and that was orbs. They just appeared like subtle, they were there, and then when I looked at it, I thought, well, maybe it's time to have an exhibition of orbs. Yeah.
And looking through the pieces, there's a lot of, as you said, those orbs, those spherical kind of shapes. You've also got a lot of nearly look like, say, little estuaries or arteries or kind of branches of trees going through everything. Now, I know you're a health practitioner in a capacity. I'm not sure what capacity, so you might tell me, but to me a lot of these pictures nearly look like things that by times you could see in medical journals. They nearly look like organs that have been dissected and the fragments you'd see there.
That's a lovely way to put it, Zoe. Yeah, I'm an art and health practitioner, which means I would have work in certain hospitals that have an art programme. But you're right, like a lot of these little prints and these paintings have that element of maybe microscopic pieces. If you look closely, you're not sure if you're looking microscopic or if you're looking maybe galactic or, yes, you know, that kind of way. So it's that kind of it can be both, I suppose, yeah.
So talk us through some more of the pieces then. As you said, this kind of smaller frame started off, and then this next piece is quite a larger canvas.
We're on to number 10, which is acrylic on canvas. So this piece, Zoe, is called Ethereal Bloom. And I suppose the inspiration came from, obviously, the orbs have to be in it. They're in the centerpiece of it. And it almost looks like it flows out of that. So you have the energy flowing left, right, up and down. And on the middle section, it's almost like when the paintbrush had a lot of paint on it, I let it flow down. And instead of wiping it away, I used it as a feature in that painting.
This piece almost looks nearly aquatic to me in both the colour schemes that you've gone with. There's different shades of blue. You have that deep blue in the background, which nearly looks like deep sea. And then you've got these lighter colours coming to the fore, a lot of spindling lines with those orbs. So to me, it nearly reflects almost like an octopus shape, a very organic shape.
Yeah, there is definitely a water element in it, and it does have that flow. And when different people see it, they tell me how they feel about it, which is brilliant, because sometimes when I'm painting it, I don't see what other people see, but people come to me and say, oh, I can see this, or I can see the flow, or I can see space, or I can see certain things in it that relates to them and their thoughts on it.
And what was going through your mind when you created this piece?
I started off, I wasn't sure what was going to happen when I started off. I did the background first, and then I put the white section in. And, I did scrub off a lot of the white to make it almost like a transparent background. So there is a process involved. There's, I can only do so much at a time, and then I have to let it dry, have to let the painting dry, and then the next day I'll come back and look at it again with new eyes. So that's important, to give it time and to let the process happen naturally, I suppose.
And is it the same type of paint that you've used? Because I know that you're painting on different, let's say, materials. You've got canvas here. You said that this was done with gels. You've got wood areas as well, paper, I know. So is it all the same type of paint that you've used?
So I mostly use acrylic, and the monotypes are also acrylic on paper, and then we have acrylic on canvas. I have acrylic on wood, and then acrylic on paper, the larger one here at the back of the reception desk here.
Talk to me about that larger one, because that's the one that really caught my eye on social media. Tell us the sheer scale of this for the listeners today, because obviously we can see it before us, but for those who can't see it, what is the scale and how is it that you measured it?
Okay, so the big showpiece in the exhibition is called Orbital Multiverse. So I did plan to have a very large piece here, and it measures 5 foot high by 12 foot long. It's acrylic on paper. So when I was making this piece, I had to make it on the floor, because I just didn't have enough room to hang it up anywhere. And then I just went, and it took a certain amount of time to do it. I had to let it dry. So it took a certain amount of time that I was coming back to it. Maybe every weekend I would focus on it and just add a little bit more colour, a little bit more detail. So it was a process, and I wasn't sure how it was even going to look when I put it up. So I seen it on the wall for the first time when we installed it here at Birr Theatre. And it was actually too large when we put it in first.
Okay.
So I had to cut the ends off to make it fit.
Oh no!
Which was, that's fine. These things happen, and I have to be just aware that, you just have to improvise as well as an artist. And it worked out really well. I mean, it's an amazing piece. Anyone that comes into the theatre say, wow, there's such a a huge amount of colour when you walk in.
And when you're working with a piece of that scale, is it hard for you to map out when you're starting where you're going to be by the end of it, because it's not something that you can have in front of you and have full control over, because it's not the size of what's before you. You have to go along the way. So when you're mapping it out, do you know how it's going to end, or do you just start in a corner and say, we'll see where we go with this?
Yeah, the mapping out, it doesn't really exist. So I think I started in the middle using some blues first on a blank piece of paper that big. I didn't know where to start, so I just started. So the rest of it just flowed, it just followed. And I wasn't under pressure when I was doing it, so it happened very naturally. But there wasn't even a plan. I had no idea what I was doing. With some of the other pieces, I would have a vague idea of what I'm doing. But with this one, it just it evolved as it went. So it took about 6 weeks in total, just working on it part-time to evolve. So, yeah. And I'm delighted, actually, the way it turned out. Yeah. It was a surprise as well. But that's the great thing about art. It's not always planned out. You know, there's kind of magic in it. Magic happens as you do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the transportation of it, because you said it's paper. So I imagine quite a more fragile material to be working with rather than if you were to roll a canvas. Had you any concerns about rolling it to get it here, of if any damage was going to be done to the piece?
Yeah. I did kind of think, well, how am I going to transport this? But the obvious thing to do was to roll it up. But before I even attempted to roll it, it had to be completely dry. So I did give it 2 weeks to dry before I start rolling it. And it worked out perfectly. I rolled it up, put it in my car, and brought it here to the theatre and unrolled it, and then we installed it on the wall. And yeah, it worked out really well. So, yeah.
Due to the scale of this piece, as you said there, it's probably arguably the showstopper. But I would maybe argue that this piece to our left here is one that really stands out in the collection. It's got very intricate little pieces, nearly like a Celtic design in some of the scribbles going on here. Could you talk us through this piece?
So Zoe, this one is called Icarus Landing. So there's a lot of red in this painting. It's acrylic on canvas. There's a lot of orbs in it and spheres. There's a lot of gold pieces, gold orbs in it, which I used gold acrylic ink to get that effect. There's also, it almost looks like there's roots holding the piece together. Now, the middle section it almost looks like a nest.
Yes.
Yeah, did you get that? And it's there's a lot of kind of scribbly bits in it, but it's very subtle as well. So I don't know exactly what's happening in it, but then that's the beauty of when I make a painting, sometimes I don't know what it is about, but I suppose there's a lot of orbs in it for me. That's kind of the main focus as well on it. A lot of people are drawn to this piece because there's a lot of red. Your eye is drawn always to the colour red.
Did not know that.
Yeah. Okay. Is that amazing? So the first thing, like if you walked into this room, the first thing you're going to look at is this painting. Yeah, it's just the way it works. Your eye will be drawn to it straight away. Yeah.
And are there any pieces in the collection that hold a special place in your heart for you, that there's a piece that maybe stands out in your mind as, could we say, a favourite?
I love all of them, but I do have a favourite, and that is the one just behind you here, Zoe. This one is called Orbital Mirror, and I am actually keeping this piece. I have decided I'm keeping this piece for myself. It's something that happened by accident as a painting. I wasn't really sure what was going to happen with it, but in this section in the middle, it just looks like a mirror in space that's reflecting some kind of maybe solar systems that are in the one area. That's kind of how I see it. It's like a mirror, and you're looking into it, but you're looking maybe into space. Yeah.
And for anybody who's thinking of coming along and checking out the exhibition whilst it's here at Birr, would you advise any particular order to follow them in? I know they're numbered. Are they numbered for a reason, as in that's the logical flow you think they should be viewed in? Or would you think people just come in and go to where they're drawn and make their way around?
It's completely up to individuals how they want to look at it. It is numbered. But you could just go in and look around, go upstairs. There's paintings upstairs as well on the stairway. Some people just come in and look at the very large painting here when you walk in. Sometimes that's your focus. And then you can just have a little look around, maybe start at number 1 and walk around. You know, it's totally up to whatever way you want to view it. So if we start at number 1, in that section, it's called liminal space. So from number 1 to 9, it's called liminal space. And that area is the area where you would go in to the main theatre for a performance. So it's that liminal space is where it's kind of a gateway. So that's why I called number 1 to 9 liminal space. Yeah.
I would highly recommend checking out Orb whilst Birr Theatre is its home. So you have up until September 10th to witness the magic. Think of it as a calming explosion of happy colours. Up next, a Westmeath artist reveals the touching story behind how she stumbled into the business of doll making. You are listening to Encore on Midlands 103 with myself, Zoe Ryan, once again in the presenter's seat. Doll making isn't something Castle Pollard-based artist Teresa Doyle could have foreseen herself doing when she graduated from Limerick School of Art and Design. Never mind be dubbed the Dollmaker of Ireland. Now, Teresa, handcrafting dolls isn't an overly common art form, especially the type of dolls you make. So how was it that you got into it?
I fell into it, Zoe. Like, I'm a visual artist and my work would have been mostly in paint and collage. And my doll making came about really after my dad died. We had lost our mum and dad, and after Dad died, Lord rest him, I couldn't part with his cardigans. He had 5 or 6 cardigans, and we were sorting out kind of belongings and that. And by the Christmas, I had made a doll for each of my siblings. And then, as the dolls were in their homes, people would see them and say, gosh, would Teresa ever make a doll for me for whatever occasion? It could be like a wedding, a birthday gift, a memory doll, those kind of reasons. So I haven't stopped making dolls. That's just how it started. It was never really intentional. And now it's like a path I'm on that kind of excites me more and more. And I have a lot of people looking to do workshops or have a doll mended or tell me a story about their doll. And I find it all fascinating.
And you offer 2 different types of dolls. We'll say you have a collection and then you do custom made ones. But if we look at the collection first, there's 12 dolls in that collection. How did you come up with the personalities or the profiles for them?
I suppose a number of years ago, I would have talked to people in Westmeath in the Leo office. And it was, right, so looking at it from a business point of view, what are the celebrations? Why might people buy a gift? So part of it is because of that, Zoe. On the other hand, part of it is like the doll that I've made with the wraparound apron. It's like she appeals so much to me because I felt, gosh, that's a lady, that's a woman that I'm missing, that I don't see anymore. And somewhere in the 1990s, she kind of disappeared from the landscape. That older Irish woman who might have worn the headscarf, the wraparound apron.
Yes.
Kind of a mix and match of patterns of clothing, like a flowery blouse or a tweed skirt. And she could have slippers on, so that's why I wanted to make her. Yeah, and the more I seemed to make, the more people kind of loved her. Yeah. So also people would have looked at a doll for a christening, St. Bridget's Day, a Bridogue would be a doll that people would like as well, a kind of an effigy of St. Bridget, and the customs that would have been part of Bridget's life and legacy. So sometimes I might workshop the St. Bridget doll, the Bridogue doll, so that people would put the cloth out the night before. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that tradition.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I'd have people who were going to come to the workshop leave the cloth out the night before, and they'd bring it to the workshop and use part of it in the making of their Bridogue.
I see.
So there's kind of, I don't stick to any one particular thing. So I follow the path. It's like it might take me somewhere next. And always at Christmas, there's still a good tradition of people buying Christmas cards. And I like to make a couple of Christmas dolls every year. There's something about that Christmas fabric. And it's like when my dolls are gone sometimes, if they're commissions or people buy them at the market and they're gone, I have the photograph in a Christmas card, or they just get sent around in the cards, yeah.
And I see you have a doll called Nellie in your collection. Now, we actually have our very own Nellie here at Midlands 103. So I have to ask, what was the inspiration behind that doll?
Well, I live in North Westmeath, close to Four. So I live between Collinstown and Castlepollard, but we're also close to Four. And over in Four, there's a lovely walkway called the Nancy Nellie Walkway. And it's the story of two young lassies. They were probably, maybe if they were alive, they'd be like in their 90s now or so. But they used to cross back and forth to each other's houses on the way to school. And there's a beautiful walkway made probably about 10 years ago or so now, that people can walk the path of Nancy and Nellie. So, one of the dolls came from that name, yeah.
That was the inspiration?
Yeah.
And as you said there, you also make custom dolls using material people hold close to them. Maybe it's baby clothing, school uniform, a tie, an apron, perhaps an item of clothing belonging to someone who has passed. I imagine those requests can be quite a tall order because they're so personal to someone.
Yes, indeed. And sometimes, I suppose for a lot of people, we hold on to things. Whether somebody has passed or people are still alive, that you kind of tend to hold on to something of the baby clothes. A lot of people keep their school uniform. Sometimes it's the first outfit they wore the first time they ever went on a job. Like, there's loads of reasons why people keep an item of clothing. Sometimes it's like you just have too much and you can't keep everything. So sometimes people might ask me, would I make a doll out of the collection of things that they have over the years, and they're just trying to declutter. So that's one thing. On the other hand, then, if somebody has lost somebody very close to them, they might mention it to me, after the person has died, and would ask about it. And I would say to them to not do anything really fast, that to make sure if they have the person's belongings. Sometimes people donate to the family different items. More times people leave to charity. But if somebody wanted a doll, I would suggest to them to get a box or a drawer and place everything in there for 2 or 3 years and decide over time if they really want to cut something that's so precious as a granddad's cap, or it could be a blouse belonging to a mom. It could be anything. That's really to let some time pass and think kind of very considered about, is this really what they want to do?
And I suppose the fact that, as you said, it was actually your own father's passing, that's how you got into this. So you have the right approach to it, that you have that own personal experience, that you know what that person's going through. So you can give it that personal touch. Yeah.
They're just so precious. Items are so precious. And like even with fabrics, if it's not a doll, even Zoe, like sometimes we might see somebody wear the very same paisley blouse or, a certain type of cords or something, and we have a memory. It triggers a memory of, somebody or a certain time, maybe listen to a song or something. And, everybody has their special reasons for keeping certain things. And as an artist, it's a great pleasure, but it's also a challenge for me to put them together. But I would treat kind of making a doll the same as I would approach a painting, to try and get the composition and the textures, and it's pleasing to look at. It's a good finished item, yeah.
What's the most memorable item someone has sent to you to incorporate into a design? Maybe not the most precious thing to them, but the thing that stands out most in your mind that you remember?
Well, somebody's jewellery. I'd have it in my hand and you'd think about the person and why was this bought for them? Was it something they bought themselves? How long did they own this brooch? How precious it is? Yeah. I think the item was a person's pair of glasses.
Right.
Yeah. Because I was really thinking about how could I use them?
Yeah.
In the finish, I had to think for a long time, but in the finish, a teacher in the secondary school, metalwork teacher, helped me cut the glass and bore the little holes that I needed, and it made a little handbag. That's what
I was going to ask, because I know these are not life-size dolls. So when you said to me that someone sent a pair of glasses, I was thinking, how's she going to work this into the doll? So that's a very interesting approach to it.
Yeah.
But that's interesting about the jewellery. I never thought of that, because your dolls are obviously crafted in fabric materials. But yeah, you obviously could put jewellery onto them as well.
Sometimes the earring is lost or the chain is broken, or there's a stone missing out of a ring and it's not going to be replaced and that. So to have that little piece of silver or gold stitched to the doll, it's a nice thing to do with something that was broken or the other half is lost.
Well, it repurposes it, doesn't it? It's nearly like a sustainable way to use things, as well as obviously your kind of focus is that in the memories that you're creating, this is the piece people remember by, but it's a sustainable act, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
Teresa, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today. The interview was at a later time than we agreed, and that it's after running over the time that I'd asked you to dedicate to it as well, so I do appreciate that.
No problem at all, Zoe.
And you can view Teresa's very bespoke dolls on her website, teresadoyledolls.ie. And she does run workshops from time to time, so do keep an eye out for announcements if you'd like to learn how to make one yourself. Still to come, repurposing your clutter items and an outpouring of Irish talent in store for Electric Picnic.
Fall in love with 252 exclusive offers on the Citroën range at Hugo Luna Motors today. Explore our impressive collection of Citroën cars and vans, where advanced comfort, style, safety and reliability all come together.
Order your 252 today and take advantage of low-rate finance, a €500 deposit contribution and avail of a free home charger.
Book your test drive today at hugolunamotors.ie.
Citroën. For everyone, like no one.
Citroën.
It is Zoe Ryan coming to you tonight from the Midlands 103 studio with Encore. Collection, preservation and archiving of found materials is the focus of Roscommon, Boyle to be specific, artist Naomi Draper. And it is indeed the inspiration for her latest body of work as one leans into another, currently on show at Esker Arts Centre in Tullamore. Naomi, for anybody listening who has yet to clap eyes on your work, could you describe for me your style of art, the materials you use, and what your collections generally consist of?
So my work is very influenced by nature and botany. I'm very interested in the relationships between humans and other species. And a lot of my research looks at botanical developments throughout history. I am really fascinated by people's interest in collecting things and collecting objects and their very deep desire and draw towards particular objects. So a lot of the making practice involves exploration of collecting, preserving and archiving plant material and found objects. Mm-hmm. So what you would typically find within the collection and in the exhibition at Esker is there are a lot of materials that have come from plants, shells, seed pods, things that are hollow, and I have been taking casts from the insides of these things, trying to reveal parts of that we cannot see, that are unfamiliar. And a lot of the things are made in plaster, but there's also foam and a material called jesmonite. There's some wax there as well. And all of the objects are presented on these soft beds and packages. So they're always surrounded by something soft to keep them safe.
And something that you touched on there was something I wanted to ask you about, which is found materials. Could you give me an example of what would be a found material?
I'll tell you about a small collection of found materials that are in the exhibition, and they are a collection of objects that were found inside books that a friend sent to me. So they were old antique books, and they were things that somebody else kept many, many years ago, kept them safe inside the pages of books, and my friend found them afterwards and sent them to me. Some of those things are what I imagine were like the things that were cut out of like birthday cards. There's locks of hair. I suppose the reason I was kind of interested in them was because often we find a flower pressed inside a book.
Yes.
But this is kind of an extension of those things that are found inside books. So there's a lot of those in the show. There might also be stones, just when you're walking and find like a pebble on the beach, a shell, and then something that might kind of maybe have been given to me in the show. There is a collection of the internal casts of figurines, and the figurines are those ornamental figurines that we know from people's shelves and collections. And they were two figurines that were given to me from an aunt, from her very prized and treasured collection of things.
This reminds me very much so of, I was reporting at Bloom a number of years ago, and I was interviewing the person who won that given year. It was artist Des Kingston. And his garden that he had designed, it was accumulated of objects that he had inherited, mainly antique pieces. And when I was speaking to him, he said to me that the concept was that we all have junk, you know, and a lot of the objects are things that people would maybe look at and think they should be discarded. But his concept was to try and encourage this idea of using the junk that we have, because we all have stuff, we all have bits like that, as you said, maybe stuck in a book or stuck on a shelf. And that the idea was to use them and repurpose them and do something different with them. So your collection very much strikes me as that. It's taking pieces that maybe some people would look at and think nothing of, but you're giving them a new purpose and using them as art.
Yeah, and I'm really curious about like why people hold on to those particular things, what it is that really makes them valuable to them but doesn't make them valuable to other people. Yeah, what is that relationship to the object, and how can we maybe forge another relationship with it?
And over your years of research, what are the common responses that you get when you do question an item as to why somebody would keep this? What does it mean to them? Or is that something you're still exploring, or is it more so you don't ask, you just ponder yourself, why would someone keep this?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think it is about maybe just the curiosity around why does somebody keep something? Why is it valuable to them? It's maybe a more sort of open question. But I'm very curious also about like how we can, it's a very fine line between the collecting of the object and the hoarding of the object.
Yes.
So that would be kind of running through the work a little bit too.
And your current collection that's in Esker Arts, the As One Leans Into Another collection, you spoke about it there, but what is the main focus of that piece, that collection?
I suppose the main focus of this work is really around an interest in the relationships between humans and other species and other things. So just I'm like, I suppose really, really fascinated by that, by people's interest in the collection of particular objects. And so there isn't really any one object in particular, or any like real main focus on any one thing. But and sometimes it's not very clear to see the relationships between things either. But there are a couple of maybe strong repetitions within the show. And one of those would be the amaryllis plant.
Okay.
So this is a plant that grows from a bulb, and we'd be very familiar with it at Christmas time. And I just was really drawn to the plant, like really love what it looks like. And one Christmas post-Christmas, when I was discarding the stems from the house, I realised that the stem of the plant was hollow. So they're very, very long, maybe 2 foot long. And I just was really curious about what would the inside of that look like. We're so familiar with the outside of the thing.
Yeah.
What does the inside of it look like? And so that began a repetition of taking these casts of the remnants of the plant before it's discarded. And that, because it's only available at a certain time of year, it becomes a sort of a cycle. You're following the cycle of nature to make that piece.
And that showcase, it's an evolving collection. So it would have been a collection that you previously had at another venue. And have you kind of altered or added to it for this exhibition?
Yes. Over the last year, I did develop the collection further. So the collection of internal casts of figurines are new to the collection. And there is also the internal cast of a giant hogweed that's on the floor in the middle of the collection. And I've been working with umbellifer plants for quite some time now. The umbellifer family of plants, you would be probably familiar with the cow parsley plant, which is in the hedgerows around May time. And I had initially started working with it by pressing it. And over the years, different works have kind of continued to work with it and develop different works with it. But later in the summer, the hogweed appears, and the hogweed is quite dangerous and cannot be really handled at all when it's growing, because the sap in it is very, very dangerous for burning the skin.
Right.
And so I wait until they're almost ready to collapse in the landscape, like maybe around April, May time, and take the casts from those stems, because again they're a big hollow stem. So they were two of the newer pieces that were developed for the Esker exhibition.
And I could have a completely wrong idea of this, because you've mentioned casting there. Is it a case of the objects that are in your collections, are they all casts of those items, or are some of them the genuine articles? In other words, are some of them perishable items?
Yes, some of them are the objects themselves. In the show in Esker, there is an amaryllis bulb which is continuing to grow. But then some of them are the casts themselves. And when I take the casts of them, I'm actually using the object itself as the mould.
Yes.
So once I take the cast out, very often, like, the stem is discarded. So rather than making a mould of the stem first, I'm actually using the stem itself to take the mould. And it means then that there's only one of that cast. I don't make multiples of them, and each cast is so different from the next that I think that that's the thing that makes me repeat this action over and over again, because no two stems are the same there, and they always throw up different things inside them, or colours or textures, and that's really fascinating for me.
And would you ever have a case of, say, you could have an item within a collection that, like that, it's an organic, natural piece, so that there would be some level of decay in it throughout the exhibition period? So would you ever have to kind of do site visits back to the exhibition to check on the items to see what state they're in? Yes
and no. Generally, a lot of pieces, I'm kind of curious about how they become independent once they leave the studio and how they'll live when they're in another space. And some of the things are very delicate, but they can survive without my watching over them anymore. So yes and no. Sometimes it is important to check in, but generally whoever is looking after the expedition kind of takes care of it from there.
You've said at the start there that kind of one of the main themes of your work is this focus around botany and botanical activity, which in its own right is a niche enough area. How was it that you got interested in that area?
I think the first pieces I started to make were with the cow parsley plant, and I was making pressings of these. And the pressing started in a very, very small format, using a flower press that I'd been given as a child. I came home one day and was looking for the flower press, and Mum had it kept. And when I opened the flower press, inside it were the blotting sheets that I had used in it as a child. Yeah. And they had the stains and the marks from the plants that I would have collected then.
Oh, wow.
And I think that was probably the start of that work, where I started to really think about this as a practice of how the plants can actually kind of make the mark, or is involved in the making in some way, and then where in history we saw these activities play out, some of them being quite problematic with plant hunters taking things from places that they shouldn't have. But I also was kind of curious, I suppose, at this time. It always kind of comes back to this, like the drive to do that, this sort of ambition and desire to go on these expeditions to find things. My expeditions are not as ambitious, but I suppose I try for them to be ambitious, maybe in the scale of the collection of the objects. But yeah, that's, I suppose, where it started. And working with that plant, working with the cow parsley, then I just it kept evolving. So there was a series of prints. There was a lot of interest around the stem at that time. And I've actually continued to make those pressed works every year. Right. It's almost like a sort of a touch point within the practice.
And what's your desired outcome, I suppose, of your art? Is it that you create it purely out of fascination and interest yourself, or do you hope that someone will come along and see your art and that it'll inspire some sort of action within them?
I suppose some of the work kind of poses the question that if we get kind of close to something, or slow down and spend time with something, and whether that's through a making practice or a painting practice or a drawing practice, but by that kind of slower interaction with it, that we can maybe change our relationship with something. And in a broader sense, I question that is it possible then that maybe would change our relationship with nature and the landscape.
The exhibition in Offaly, it's coming to an end shortly. So what's next for you after that?
Well, if you could see the studio that I'm sitting in, it's very, very messy here. And I have to tidy my studio. And I'm hoping that in September to kind of get back to some making. And I'm very curious about this idea of how making and our interaction with materials can reveal knowledge or can pass information to us. And so I think that the next phase of research will really focus around making and the potential within that action.
Naomi, if anybody's interested in knowing more about yourself and seeing the work that you do, where can they find out more?
Probably best to find me on my website, which is naomidraper.com. I'm not brilliant at social media, but there is some images of my work also on Instagram.
Fantastic. Naomi, thank you so much for giving me your time today, and best of luck with the remainder of the exhibition. As I said, it's coming to a close shortly, but whatever next is on your cards. And tell me, have you had much of a response from the exhibition so far? As I said, it's been in situ for a while now. What has the response been from it?
Yes, I've had some really lovely messages from people, and I've seen it popping up on social media a lot. So that's been really nice to know that there is people seeing it, and it's out there to be shared with people.
Fantastic. Well, if anyone is interested in popping along to it, it is still in Esker Arts until the 30th of August. Naomi, thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to chat about this and share this with you.
And this weekend is your last chance to view Naomi's work at Esker Arts, as its stint at the venue is coming to an end on Sunday, August 31st. Speaking of Esker Arts, on last week's show we had artist David Fox on talking about his Marked Lands exhibition ahead of his walk and talk style Meet the Artist event, which was meant to take place last weekend but had to be rescheduled to this weekend. So if you are popping along to see Naomi's work, you might be able to fit that in. It's at 12 this Saturday, August 30th. After this, we take a look at this weekend's Electric Picnic lineup. We are into the final segment of Encore for tonight on Midlands 103 with myself, Zoe Ryan. We couldn't not mention the biggest music festival in the country taking place this weekend for its annual stint in Stradbally. There are plenty of Irish artists taken to stages across the weekend, such as Hosier, Kneecap, Jazzy, Inhaler, the Coronas, the Saw Doctors, the Academic, Kingfisher, Mundy and Bell X1, to name a few. In the line of comedy, you have the likes of Garrod Farley and Emma Dornan, and a man who is no stranger to the picnic and festivals in general is Jerry Fish, who I had the pleasure of interviewing for Encore at the start of the summer, which you can listen back to under the podcast section on the Midlands 103 website, on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts. I honestly cannot believe this is my last Encore of the summer, but what a summer it has been for the arts. Over the past 11 weeks, I've interviewed musicians, painters, spoken word artists, poets, the list goes on. And every single one of them had a captivating story to tell, and I had the wonderful job of bringing it to you. I've genuinely loved every second of it, and will have an encore-sized hole in my life when the show's rightful host Claire O'Brien resumes presenting duties. But thank you to you for listening and texting in and even stopping me in the supermarket to chat about different segments you heard on the show. It's been an honour, and one I will gladly take on in the future. Until then, a sincere thank you and good night.